Hey everybody, great to see all y'all out there in Son of Sam land. Hey, we got a great one for you today. Yes. This is actually kind of a somber one and kind of one that I've been meaning to do for a while, and actually the topic pisses me off. And what are we talking about? Well, we're talking about the sad and unmarked graves of the Carr family. And I'll get into why that pisses me off and all that jazz in today's video as we walk around St. Mary's Cemetery here in Yonkers, the final resting place of quite a few prominent Yonkers families. And of course, one of those families was prominent for really, well, a negative reason, really, at the end of the day, and is their association with the Son of Sam case. And so, of course, we are talking about the unmarked grave of Sam and I think Francis Carr, although I've never been able to confirm that. But they're buried here in the grave of Anna and Daniel. And I am not the biggest person in terms of genealogy. I believe that this might be Sam Carr's father and mother, but it could also be his aunt and uncle. I'm not sure. But this is the Carr family grave that is conspicuous for its absence of the names Samuel and Francis Carr. And of course, that gets us into the topic of why I'm so disappointed and disturbed about this. And of course, why I'm out here back in St. Mary's Cemetery doing this video, which is the second one I've done here. Those of you who've been stalwarts of the series, you may remember that back in the day, on like my third video, back when I was a moron, back when I was a Terry head, I came here and I showed you that grave, and I was talking about the conspirators of Son of Sam, the sons of Sam, named, of course, John Carr and Michael Carr. Basically outright named them as shooters in the Son of Sam. And of course, what was I going by at that point? I was a moron. I was a Terry head. I believed Maury Terry had integrity back then. We hadn't yet realized how badly this guy lied to us. So in that video, which you're seeing a little excerpt of now, just visuals from it, I was walking around here. It was early March. It was a much grayer day. And actually, it's October. It's almost the end of October. And I'm out here in my dashiki. And even that's too much. It's like 75 to 80 degrees. So I figured I'd come out here and make, well, really what's going to be one of the last videos of the series. I know that I've been saying that I'm retiring and all that kind of stuff. But a couple little last minute topics keep on coming up. So I wanted to get out here and sort of pay my respects to the Carr family, because the truth and the reality of their involvement in Son of Sam was that they were the heroes of Son of Sam. And we'll get into all that history in a bit. I do want to say that in my first video, I thought that John and Michael had been buried in that same grave plot that we saw earlier. But the simple fact actually remains that I did a little bit more research on this, and I realized that they were buried in another spot quite nearby. And it's even sadder because they don't, whereas the Carr family actually has a gravestone that says Carr on it. Right now we're coming up to this area right here where both John and Michael are buried. And well, they're unmarked. So if you come out here and you find the Carr grave, which is, I'll just point to it, that's right next to that big sort of Celtic cross there. It's the one just to the right of it. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to come out here and you're going to want to find the grave of Henry Hamilton, who died on July 10th, 1942. And why? Because according to Find a Grave, right here, Michael Carr is buried right there, and John Carr is buried right there. And we see no markers whatsoever. Now, according to Find a Grave, the Michael Carr gravestone was constantly stolen. Like they put up one, it got stolen. They put up another, it got stolen. I don't know how many times they did that. Probably not that many. But apparently they gave up. And there's just it's unmarked. And John Carr never had a marker on it. So I wanted to come out here and sort of update that first video and show you these this lonely gravesite of the brothers of the Carr family, the sons of Sam Carr, formerly thought by many of us to be conspirators in the Son of Sam spree. But now we know better. We know that how badly Maury Terry lied to us. We know how he manipulated the evidence, how he juiced evidence, how he just literally made stuff up when he needed to. And of course, we can't forget the simple fact, the actual fact that exists in the real world is presently constituted, that this dude used comic book characters and said that they were cult leaders in Unmarked Park. I mean, it's just gone nuts. Now, I will say one thing before I get into the heart of the matter here, a little rant against Maury for doing this to this family, is I want you to look at how many crosses there are here, right? Let's just sort of take a panoramic shot. Lots of crosses. Crosses as far as the eye can see, depictions of angels, crosses, Jesus, St. Mary's, there's Jesus right there on top. So basically, what I'm saying here and showing to you is that these alleged intergenerational Satanists, right, according to the moron, Sam Carr's a Satanist. His sons were drinking pee and drinking blood and were a part of all sorts of satanistic and druidistic activities in Unmarked Park, as well as Minot, North Dakota. And of course, we can't forget the third member of the triumvirate, Wheat Carr. They're all buried in a freaking Catholic cemetery. I mean, this is a Christian cemetery. I thought that Satanists, the last thing they wanted to do was be around objects and idols of Christianity. But here they are buried in a Christian cemetery. So that's another myth put to rest. I mean, just that alone should have cause people to pause a little bit. But yeah, so real quick before we walk around a little bit and rant, the Carr grave is here next to the Cawley grave. It's in section S, right by the sign. And I'll just walk right to the lonely and sad graves of John, allegedly Wheaties, unquote, Carr, and his brother, who until fairly recently was commonly known as Michael Vale Baron Carr. So of course they're right here next to good old Henry Hamilton. Poor Henry Hamilton, like, you know. I mean, this is where we all end up, guys, right? I guess the key is it's a testament to your life. Your gravestone, in a way, is like the last testament to your life, and it can say a lot about your life. So the simple fact that Sam and possibly Francis are buried unmarked over there, and that John, allegedly Wheaties, and Michael Vale Baron Charkowski Carr, they don't even have gravestones. Why? Well, because of the terrible work of the liar, the manipulator, the bullier, the abuser, the wig wearer, the chain smoker, the not good friend, the drunkard, the guy who would send you 1,500 feet this way when he really meant 1,500 feet that way, the spiritually sick, snap suture lover, and the man whose mind was veritably drenched, steeped, and soaked in urine. And of course, we're talking about Maury Terry and the crimes that he committed, not only against the truth, but the crimes that he committed against the Carr family. So let's talk a little bit about that as we, which way do I want to walk? I want to walk this way, actually. So we're walking down this road in St. Mary's Cemetery by section 2. Then there's section S, and that's, of course, the section that the Carrs are buried in. And across here from section L, and so on and so forth. And so let's talk a little bit about what this guy, Maury Terry, did to this family. Well, first of all, he brought them into this as conspirators, which is actually evil. the really messed up thing about it is one of his first articles about John Carr came out on John Carr's birthday. So that was like an FU to the Carr family. Now, I don't know what the deal is between Maury Terry and the Carr family. According to Wheat Carr, Maury Terry had a vendetta against the family because he was kicked out of their house at the age of 15 after getting into a fight with, after he tried to sexually molest and verbally sexually assault a girl there, a teenage girl there. I don't know that to be true. I can't say, even though I respect Wheat Carr and have a lot of feeling for what she's been through in life because of the crimes of Maury Terry and the crimes of David Berkowitz. Both of them together really did a number on this family. But I can't say that that's absolutely 100% true. But in either case, it's definitely clear that this dude, Maury Terry, had an axe to grind with this family. And I think it was deeper than just his erroneous belief that they were involved in Son of Sam. I mean, they weren't involved in Son of Sam. I mean, NYPD went out to North Dakota immediately after the arrest of David Berkowitz and looked into John Carr. And of course, there's absolutely no proof in the real world as presently constituted that John Carr was a Satanist, number one. He's buried in a Catholic Christian cemetery. There's no proof that he knew or was affiliated in any way, shape, or form with David Berkowitz. There's no proof that his nickname was Wheaties. These are just all things that Maury Terry said in a book. But you could say anything. I could say Rumpelstiltskin is real, right? I could say fairy tales are real. You need proof in these things, and of course that's what our video series did. We dealt strictly with the evidence, the police reports, eyewitness reports, speaking to actual people involved, and everybody to the letter and all the police reports that you can find on this People vs. David Berkowitz site, they're all in agreement that John Carr, they could find nothing about this guy. As we look at this angel here, on the grave of Nancy D'Aloia, who died, she was only 6 years old. Wow. Sad. So, John Carr, there's just no proof in the real world that he had anything to do with this. He was investigated, he was exonerated. He never owned a 44. Even if he did, so what? A lot of people own 44s, right? Maury Terry was the king of conflating things, making you think that because something might have a kernel of truth, that everything else was related to it. And of course, his modern day fans do that to this day. They still think that Moloch actually existed. They think that David Berkowitz was committing satanistic and druidistic activity in Untermeyer Park. I mean, absolutely the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Here's a new grave here. Julio Villaran. Looks like a nice guy. He just died this past February. Beloved brother and friend. So John Carr, for him to like write that article and publish it on the day of the birthday, I mean, that's just an insult. It's a deliberate insult. And then Michael Carr, I defy anybody to tell me anything about Michael Carr. In fact, I know, besides Wheat and a few other people who exist on this planet, I know the most about Michael Carr out of anybody in this world. And I know very little. What do I know about Michael Carr? Well, I know he was married. I know that I spoke to his, a college person he ran for, like student board, college president or whatever, like one of those things in college. I spoke to that guy over 2 years ago, and he told me straight up, he's like, yo, this is a nice grave. I love when they do this, when it's kind of like this 3D effect. That's really cool. Takes a lot of skill to do that too. Beautiful engraving. It's gorgeous. So this guy, I think his last name was Sibix or something. It was some weird Eastern European spelling. He told me straight up, he said Michael Carr was a party guy, loved to have a good time. He was one of the nicest dudes, never talked about Satanism, never had anything to do with Satanism, never heard of it before. And this guy was in shock when he heard later in life that Maury Terry had accused him of being part of Son of Sam. So the simple fact is, I don't even know where Maury Terry came up with this. Maybe because he invented the whole Wheaties thing. There's just no proof that Wheaties was the nickname. We know that Berkowitz found the name in the phone book. I mean, all that's been adjudicated. We don't have to go through over past history. Beautiful fall visage here. Basically, we're in this cemetery to talk about the practical effects on this family. So this was a family who, from April of 1977, was being constantly terrorized by David Berkowitz. Molotov cocktails, letters, their dog was shot. It was very reminiscent, of course, of what he was doing to the Netto family. And so they had to deal with all that. They're the ones that got David Berkowitz's name in June of 1977 when they met the Carr family. And then Wheat, of course, was going around telling everybody who would listen, and nobody would, that Berkowitz was the son of Sam. The Berkowitz, this crazy lunatic, was doing this stuff to her family, and exactly nothing happened. So just imagine the frustration involved there, right? So they get victimized first by David Berkowitz. Then they are rightly shown as the heroes of Son of Sam afterwards, because of course they aided in his capture when NYPD called up to Yonkers Police Department, and Wheat, who didn't answer the phone that day, it was a guy named by the initials DB, I forget his real name. And then of course Sal DiMaggio picked up the phone and then gave it to Wheat. That's what started the ball rolling on his arrest. So this was the heroes, and they were seen as such after the arrest. And then swoops in Maury Terry. Let's see these geese. Yeah. Let's go up to these guys. Hey guys, what's up, geese? They don't like it. Anyway, we'll get into the shade a little bit here. It's actually quite sunny today and warm. So then Maury Terry comes around, and he, of course, after they're dead, he didn't do this while they were living. After they're dead, he publicly names the brothers, John and Michael, of basically outright being shooters in Son of Sam. A very disgusting allegation based on absolutely no proof. Zero proof. In fact, negative proof. There's tons of proof that they had nothing to do with this, given the fact that David found the name in the phone book, et cetera, et cetera. So because of that, and because Maury's book was so popular, and because everybody read it, and of course this was happening during the Satanic Panic period, where there was a moral panic, much like the hysteria of the COVID and the hysteria after 9/11 about Islamic terrorism. In the 80s, it was Satanic Panic. So what happened was these people had to bury their loved ones in unmarked graves because of Maury Terry's work caused unstable people. Whoa, there's a cool grave up there I want to go to. Caused unstable people to think that they were involved, and they either, in the case of John, didn't have a gravestone, and in the case of Michael, it was desecrated. I mean, at least once, and stolen. So I don't know how many times it was replaced, but eventually the family gave up. And because of that, these people have never been given the closure they deserve of having a final resting spot that's memorialized by a tombstone. And to me, that's extremely sad. I mean, that's just the human response. When an injustice takes place, you try to right the injustice, and that's what we're trying to do here with this small little video. This is super cool. So strange that Michael and John would be buried in a cemetery where this is one of the main motifs here. Right? Somehow or other, I'm not quite sure that Satanists want to be associated with this image that I'm showing right now. So you have to ask yourself if you're still one of the last few remaining Maury fans, and there are still some out there. I mean, here I am. I show Billy the artist. You can't get more simpler than this. I mean, literally, you can't get more simpler than this guy saying, I gave Maury Terry comic book art, and then he used it to say that they were cult leaders. And then we find the comic book art. Like, we actually found that it exists in the real world. And to this day, literally today, I had a comment on one of my videos or community posts about how Marvel Comics, the artists from Marvel Comics were involved in the Son of Sam letters. So instead of like learning from a mistake that was made, right, and updating their operating systems to comport with the new information, which none of us knew. Again, this was all new to me too. I was Maury Terry's biggest fan until I realized by looking at all the police documents how badly he manipulated and basically outright lied about stuff. And being a truth teller and a person who cares about historical accuracy, I couldn't keep continuing living this farce about cult involvement in Son of Sam. It's just not cool, basically. If you're still on the cult involvement in Son of Sam, you're no different than Ann Stammel, the woman who used to complain to the FCC about Howard Stern. I mean, you're a church lady. I mean, you have absolutely no discernment of fact versus fantasy, and therefore your voice no longer matters in the conversation. I use these people for comedy fodder. I enjoy making fun of them, and they always give me good material. And I think that you guys out there in the Son of Sam community, the reality-based Son of Sam community, I think you realize too how funny it could get discussing Satan activity in Untermeyer Park associated with Sam. I mean, you got Berkowitz hanging out with Roy Cohn. I mean, the levels of fantasy that these people go to, and of course, Jim Rothstein is their newest hero, with no historical knowledge of all the interviews I did of Rothstein, how much I have him on tape, basically saying that he doesn't know the first thing about the Son of Sam case, he didn't investigate it. I don't even believe 98% of his stories. And even if his stories were true about this massive child ring and all this kind of stuff, who gives a shit? Had nothing to do with Son of Sam, and we're Son of Sam researchers. Now, you could spend your life in the sewers of talking about child trafficking and child exploitation, but quite honestly, I get a real eerie, and well, not eerie, but a real icky vibe off of those people, because it's like they're titillated by it. They constantly want to hear about child trafficking and child molestation. So there's some sick psychology, of course, happening amongst the last few remaining morons. And it's hilarious to watch, because whereas we keep on soaring and elevating, they keep on going. I mean, they're talking about Marvel Comics being involved. Do I have to spell it out more starkly than that? I mean, it's just insane, guys. So Maury Terry really did a terrible injustice to this family, the Carrs. And I just want to come out here as the top Son of Sam researcher on the planet, never to be beaten at this point. Why? Because I can't be beaten. New information can't be invented. And we already discovered so much, and of course, brought you brand new and original things like Billy the Artist and Wendy Sabino to add to the mix. So we're in a good position, and I think that by coming out here, it really helps to make us realize in the stark terms about how really messed up Maury Terry was for doing this to this family. And Roger Flood! The Flood family is directly across from the Carrs. That's a sign and it means something. And of course we remember that Roger Flood was the alleged businessman who allegedly said that he was at a dinner party and someone said that Son of Sam was in a cult. I did a whole show on it. The guy never said that. He had no recollection of saying it. He certainly had no information. And it was another one of those things in Maury Terry's book where he uses that as proof of something. So we really need more discernment. And of course, those of you who are my fans and with me on this journey, you already have that discernment. But is there any hope for the moron? At this point, I don't think so. Because they keep on going down even bigger flights of fancy. Guys, obsessing over child trafficking networks and P. Diddy and Epstein and all this stuff, it might be fun, I guess. I mean, I don't want to spend my mind there, personally. But all that does is serve to disempower you. You're taking your power away when you start to really obsess about these nameless, shadowy forces that are controlling the planet. Because sitting there talking about it doesn't help. It doesn't change anything. It doesn't give you any new ammunition to face the world in a positive way. It actually makes you feel powerless and like you're smaller than you actually are. So I choose not to be a part of that, and I would be a part of it if this stuff had anything to do with Son of Sam, but it doesn't. Son of Sam, at the end of the day, was a very simple story. David Berkowitz, the lone Son of Sam killer, the narcissist, the manipulator, the ego-driven killer with a very high IQ who loved to manipulate lower-level people like Maury Terry. He was part and parcel with a crime, not only the Son of Sam crimes, but the crimes of Maury Terry. He was a domestic terrorist, a stalking sniper who went out, and it didn't matter if you were young, old, blonde, brunette, woman, man, in a love area, or on the city street, or on a stoop of a house. If you were in Disco Dave's realm when he decided that the time was right for him to kill someone, you were gonna get shot. And of course, whether you lived or died depended on his particular aim that day, the trajectory of the bullet, and so on and so forth. But these ancillary crimes of Maury Terry and also of David Berkowitz need to be parsed out and re-examined more, in my opinion. And what better place to do it than these spots where the victims of Maury Terry, the victims of David Berkowitz, had to be laid to rest in unmarked graves, lonely unmarked graves next to a little sort of river/ditch with water traveling through it. The last resting place of Michael and John, right here. What better place to do that than here? So anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed today's video. I really don't have anything left in the tank. There's a lot of things going on in my personal life which demand my attention a lot more than the video series. But it's been a couple months, and I know I said I was going to retire, but these little things come up. So I just wanted to get this on the record because I felt it was important to, well, to really kind of update the information base of this, to bring a perspective which you're not going to get from anyone else, and to actually also show you the sites, and so you could feel for yourself how lonely and sad the last graves of the Carr family were. All right, guys. Well, hopefully we'll see you soon. Take care, everybody. Thank you.